Well, hello, everyone. This is Anthony Sequeira with CBT Nuggets, and I am so thrilled that you are joining us for this. This is the second, actually, webinar that we've done on Cisco VIRL. So we are thrilled to see so many people joining us in the live audience. We will be making a recording of this presentation available for everyone. So if you were to step away during the presentation, have no worries. We're recording it. We will be posting the recording. It's up within 24 hours, I would say, on our blog site. And that blog is blog.cbtnuggets.com. Also, I want to point out to everyone that we'll be answering your questions throughout this particular 30-minute presentation. We will leave about 5 minutes at the end for just strict Q&A, but don't feel like you have to wait till that point. You can ask your questions at any time. We have a very special guest, my dear friend Joel. He heads up the VIRL team, and we have plenty of the VIRL developers that are joining us on this particular webinar. So this is a really awesome time for you to get those questions that have been maybe nagging you a bit regarding Cisco VIRL. Just an awesome time to get those questions answered with all these incredible attendees that are from the VIRL team that are with us today. In our first VIRL webinar, we went and took a look at how you get the product, how you install the product. We took a look at its core functionality. So that may be something you want to go look at on our blog site. Once again, blog.cbtnuggets.com. And what we want to do in these follow-up webinars is start really focusing on particular features that I find really exciting, that other users of VIRL that I speak to find exciting, and maybe they don't even realize that some of these features exist. So that's what we want to do with this continuing seminar series on VIRL. With that said, it's going to be really exciting today because what Joel's going to be demonstrating for us is features that we have right now today in VIRL, but what I'm super excited for you to see in this webinar is features that are coming in the next release. It should be about November, mid-November 2015, where we'll get yet another version of VIRL that we can play with that, as Joel always likes to tell me, just great new toys that will be inside here that we get to play with. One of the things that I personally love about my VIRL subscription is the consistent and constant updates that I get that bring new functionality, new features. And VIRL did a great job of smoothing out that upgrade process where you just stay right in your software and you get all the new goodies and you don't have to reinstall or anything like that. I just wanted to quickly highlight that we are indeed talking about the VIRL Personal Edition software here. And there is a nice discount coupon code that is available with the VIRL team and with CBT Nuggets, so that's always great. You can save a little bit off this particular subscription price. And it's the personal edition, as I said, that we are discussing. For larger environments, VIRL does indeed, it is the engine for the Cisco modeling labs. So if you're in an enterprise type environment and you want to deal with hundreds of different devices and test against that large number of devices, then that is the particular version that you would want to look at. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand the microphone over to Joel right now, because one of the things that we wanted to look at intensely today is this just really cool feature. It's just got this huge coolness factor. It's the live visualization capabilities. And Joel, I know you want to actually show us a lot more than that today.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. So good afternoon or good morning or evening, wherever everybody is. So I'm going to start to share. So one moment.
Yeah, no problem, Joel.
Over.
The live visualization feature that we're going to look at today, as Joel's getting that demonstration ready to push for everybody, the live visualization feature is, as you're going to see, this amazing capability of the software to look at what you've got set up in VIRL and then draw you this awesome depiction of it. And we call it a live visualization feature because as you make changes in your topology, the topology map that's being drawn for you instantly updates so that you can see exactly what's going on inside one of your practice lab environments.
That's right. So what we wanted to show today, and to try and clarify for some people, is the functionality, what we're talking about here, is not predicated on you using automated configuration engine, so that's the AutoNetKit engine, to actually build the configurations. And in many cases, people deliberately want to go through the practice of configuring things from scratch. So what I wanted to show people was that you can use the environment to create effectively the baseline infrastructure, which is just for management purposes, because the live visualization capability needs that management infrastructure. And then we can go in and actually create our configurations by hand, set things up as we would want to, and then still use the live visualization capability to do that.
Very cool. And I noticed some nice enhancements in this upcoming version of VIRL. Particularly, I noticed the interface labels are nicely done now with the arrows. And boy, that's just a nice little tweak there to the UI.
That's right. So what we've got here, just in case people are getting, it's like, whoa, how do I get this? So this is new capability, new functionality that's going to be coming in the next version of VIRL. So I'm showing you a pre-release of that right now. And this is under the augmentation element. So we have a number of these functions in place here today. So the things like the node loopback IP addresses, the simulation state functionality is going to be new. The packet capture stuff is there today. There's some new link parameter stuff that's coming in, and I'll show you a little bit about that later, and also the new interface names. So we can make the interface names appear and disappear as required. So hopefully that's also going to make things easier for people to orientate themselves around their network. So as I mentioned, we can take an environment. So here's something that I put together very simply. So a set of IOSV nodes, a couple of switches, one to the left, one to the right. And when we want to create just the basic infrastructure, the management infrastructure, I want to show you how you do that. So in the new version of VM Maestro that you're going to get, you're going to see this new field here. It says infrastructure only. Hopefully you can see my mouse highlighting that right now, which says infrastructure only. But in the versions of code that are out there right now, so if you are an existing VIRL user, that field will be missing. So I want to quickly show you how you can achieve the same outcome as having this field set to true. Okay, so I'm going to flip that to false. What we're doing is AutoNetKit will try to do the IP addressing structures that it needs on all of our infrastructure links. So the links, for example, from IOSV 6 to 4 and 5. And we want to do that ourselves. We want to do that by hand. So what I want to do is I want to turn off the IPv4 address family, and I want to turn off routing. Okay, so with just those two values turned to off, so again, turning off routing, and turning the address family to none, if I then send this topology to AutoNetKit for processing, we're doing that right now, so just going to show you what that looks like. So if I take this node here, we do get a configuration that's being built. But if we take a closer look at it, there are no IP addresses that are appearing. So if we take a look at these infrastructure links here, so you can see it says description to IOSV4, there's no IP addresses. Okay, so the only things that are actually being set up is we grab one interface from out-of-band management. So this will be configured when we start the topology up. And we set up all the various services. We create our default username so we can actually log into things. That is all we need. Okay, so with that done, and that's applied on all of the nodes. So again, to the IOSVL2 instances, exactly the same thing. Again, just setting up management interfaces. I'm now able to bring up this topology, and when I do so, everything's going to come up blank. Okay, so it will come up with the management infrastructure only. Everything else is going to be sitting there in a state where I can then go in, configure this by hand. Okay, so if you're doing that practice for your whatever the exam is, and let's say you want to run against the clock and see how long it takes you to actually get this done, all I'm doing is just setting up that infrastructure. Everything else is up to me to then go ahead and actually spin up.
I love it. So that out-of-band management that you are setting up, that VIRL's setting up for us, that's so that we can like extract our configurations later on. And I just learned today that that is also necessary for the live visualization to function too, isn't it?
Right. So what's happening when we do live visualization is we have a hidden management container, right? So there's a hidden Linux container which reaches into each one of these nodes and grabs information from it. And it needs IP access to get in there. So yeah, that's one of the reasons, as you said. Configuration extraction, it can actually work, it does actually work without the management IP. Sort of in a fallback mode. It's much slower because it's going in over the serial ports, like the console ports, rather than management IP.
Gotcha.
But yes, indeed, the live visualization, that needs to go in over that management IP port. So yeah, that's the reason we need it there.
Very cool. And I love your infrastructure only edition in the upcoming release because that'll save us a couple of mouse clicks. That's great.
Absolutely, saves you a couple of mouse clicks. That's right.
Yep. Okay. Awesome.
So in the best traditions of demonstration, here's one I did earlier. Okay, so this is the same topology, but what I've done, just to show you, is I've built the configurations by hand. So we can see here, I set up loopback IP addresses. You can see there's no management IP addressing set up on that Gigabit Ethernet 00. That will happen when the virtual machines get launched. But here you can see I've come up with my own addressing schema for my interfaces. And we're actually running OSPF on the one side of the network. So these nodes over here on the left-hand side, we've got OSPF running with ISV 1, 2, and 3, EIGRP set up on 4, 5, and 6, and then I'm doing static routes and redistribution between the left-hand and the right-hand side. So that's what we're actually seeing here. So what I did is I actually span up my topology and have gone in and done all my configuration pieces and then saved my configuration back. So what I'm going to do now is just sort of show you what this looks like. So first of all, so here it is. This is part of the new live view that we have within VM Maestro. Okay, so now we're getting status information happening here. So we can see the nodes in the green state. So we can, see something going up and down. So for example, if I stop this node, we're going to see the color change as it goes down and then rebuild as it comes back up. We also now are getting this new sort of status linked information, so we can see this is in a not operational state on the one side. So let me just bring that guy back up. So we'll see that color start to change as it reboots.
That is great. I love the new. Yeah, it's great that we're getting status information now in this kind of design topology. That's awesome. And
a nice new piece. If I click on the link and I right mouse click, we're now able to dial in, or we will be with the new version that comes out, we're able to dial in latency, jitter, and packet loss. So I can actually set links and say, okay, I want this to look like a transcontinental link. I want this to look like a trans-Pacific or transatlantic link. I want to make it look lossy. So you'll be able to dial those parameters in, and that will then get set.
Wow, fantastic for
new
QoS. Yeah, fantastic for playing with QoS, obviously.
Right. So we've got this one view here. So this again, gives us an ability we can then, log in just like we've been able to do before. So that node's still booting. Let me pick another node. There we go. Okay, so that node's still coming up. And when we take a look, let me just move this one over here, resize that. Okay, so we just saw OSPF came up on that particular node. So, come on. There we go. So the configuration that you're seeing here, this isn't built by AutoMateKit. This was myself actually building this. So he can see, again, there's the automated configuration piece that is coming in. So here you can see this address, that got injected when the virtual machine came up. And that's what we need for the out-of-band management IP. But the rest, these 10 networks, the 18 networks here, the router with OSPF, or the router OSPF, and the redistributed subnets, this is all my handiwork. And then, oops, show IP route, show IP route. There we go. Okay, so here we can see, we've got E2, the external, redistributed routes. And then if we go back over onto like the node here, let me just connect in on this guy.
And I love how you're setting us up for the live visualization here because, you know, you're having to explore the topology utilizing your show commands in order to try and figure out what exactly is going on. And of course, the live visualization is about to really paint us the portrait of what's happening here.
Exactly. So here we can see we've got, you know, parallel paths in places. So if we now take a quick look at live visualization, so just going to flip over. Okay, can you see the diagram that's appeared here?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so this diagram is being built from the network, okay? So this is really a system which is capable of learning what addressing schemes you've put in place, okay? There's nothing here that predicates, oh, it must be started by AutoNetKit or anything like that. The only thing it needs is indeed that out-of-band management IP piece. So when the system comes up, if we take a look at the log, it actually reaches in and will grab information, and it learns IP addresses. So here we can see this is iOS v2. That's that node that I just restarted. So it came down, and when it came back up, so here we can see it went absent, active, reachable, and then it's reached in, and it's grabbed that information. So if we go back in the log, we can see it's been doing that for each one of those as they come up. So some of the things that we can do here, first of all, is we can actually set up a Central Syslog. So when I fire that off, and you can see hopefully here on the right-hand side, the syslog number just shot up to 12. What's happened is it's gone into each one of these nodes and told it, hey, there's now a syslog server over here at the IP address. And it's actually now sending that across to the management LXC, that Linux container. And now we have this kind of, you know, this view, this centralized view of what's going on with all of our devices. So for example, if I bring down a link over here, so I'm just going to set this interface down. There it goes. The syslog message for that just popped straight up. Here it is. So we can see iOS v2 just sent up those messages. There it is. The interface went down. We can see the neighbor statements going down there. And if we wait a moment, then obviously our neighbors here are then going to detect the fact that, hey, this guy just disappeared. So while we're doing that, we can also go in and grab information. So if I flip the view to say, okay, give me what's going on insofar as OSPF is concerned. So it's now going in, and we can see that there's no connectivity running between iOS v2 and iOS v3 right now. And this link is going to then go out from a protocol perspective in a moment because of the timing going down. Okay, so if I take a look from EIGRP's perspective, yeah, we're building a view across on the other side. Oh, looks like we got a problem there. But if we can bring that all back, here we can see, you know, the link state down. So I'm going to bring this interface back up now, enable the interface. And if we watch from the syslog perspective, we should see the interface coming back up. There it goes. So it just went up. And then we'll see, and here we can see the other messages from iOS v1, iOS v3, there it is. You know, they are starting to see. So this function, this syslog function, gives that ability to be able to look down on our network, grab all that information, understand what's going on. Some other nice capabilities that we have in here is we can actually tell it, you know, grabbing the routing tables. So we can reach in, and we now get, for each one of the devices, the routing table. So here we can see the view from iOS v5, from iOS v6. So here we can see the parallel paths that we've got going on. So, you know, again, to run around each one and do it by hand, yes, absolutely, you can do that for sure. But this is quite a powerful little function to be able to reach in and grab all that. And then the other piece that we have, and people will have seen some of this before, is we can then do, you know, the trace from, trace to, and then, you know, it's got parallel paths here, hence we get this kind of, you know, looping effect going on, but we can say, right, trace from here, trace to here, and we can see how, trace from here, trace to here, you know, how the traffic is then being passed around the network. And then if we point at one of these, we can now see the hop by hop. So again, this is a new functionality that we can have here where we can point at our paths and it'll give us the decode as to, you know, how did it get from one side of the network to the other.
That is so cool. And Joel, you and I were talking last week. You can easily go up and do a file print, and you could print this as a PDF. And then once you have it as a PDF, of course, it's electronic. So you could easily take these great live visualizations and you could, you know, incorporate them into Perhaps it's a presentation that you have to give, or perhaps you want to have a nice printout of the topology for a student, maybe someone you're working with, to practice with that particular topology.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is the thing. There are many different ways of taking this information and utilizing it in whatever it is that you may be doing. So yeah, absolutely. You want to print this stuff out? Sure, you can do that. PDF it. So here we just saw I just shut that interface down. Now we can see that the path just reconversion took a different path around. So yeah, we can do experimentation in here. And as I mentioned, the new functionality is going to be coming in, where, like you just saw in VM Maestro, we'll be able to do the same thing here in the live viz, where we can then dial in our delay, our jitter, and our packet loss across the various link pieces.
Now, I was correct in saying, Joel, that you guys, this used to be called the visualization feature, and you renamed it to live visualization, did you not, when it started incorporating changes that we might make in our lab as we're going along?
That's right. So we still have visualization. So let me just try and clarify that. So the live visualization, it's reaching into a running simulation and building these visual representations of the network, the diagrams, from scratch. Okay, but of course, there is a simulation that's actually running. So if I were to do something, for example, let's take this environment and say, okay, I don't want infrastructure only. I want it to actually give me V4. And I want to have, let's say, everybody running OSPF, for example. Okay, so if I run and I send this environment over to AutoNetKit to build my configurations, but I do want to see the visualization feature. Here it is. Okay, so in this mode, I'm able to see my network, but nothing has started up. Nothing exists at this point in time. But what I can do is then say, okay, well, show me the view insofar as OSPF is concerned. Okay, so here I've got OSPF on the one side, and I've overridden, and I've got EIGRP on the other side. So if I go back and say, well, that's not quite what I want all of these devices to actually be set up for, let's say, ISAS, just for argument's sake. Okay, throw that back over, see the view, and now what I've got is, if I now take a look at, OSPF and EIGRP are gone, but I have ISIS as the view, so now I can see everything that's going on. So the key thing is this is the before you fire, before you launch. Okay, so if I want to make the modifications, now's the time to do it before I do the expensive thing, and that's spending compute time to actually bring this environment up. Live visualization then says, okay, what is it that I'm actually doing on the inside? So for example, and just to sort of try and bring this home, if we look at OSPF, let me just remove the trace around so we can see things. Okay, so here's OSPF. If I now log into this device, oh, I'm logged in on the other view. Oops, hang on. You can only log into the console from one location, and I think I'm logged into this one too. Hang on. Yep, I am. Hold on. Third time lucky. Here we go.
Yep, no problem.
I'm logged in on all of them. Oh, this is annoying. Sorry, one moment. Let me just log out from some of these.
Yep. So you're just going to go back and close the console connections that you made. Gotcha.
That's right. That's right. There we go. Okay. We can only be logged in one at a time. Right. Okay. There we go. Now we got control back. Great. Okay. So if I now go into this device and go into my router, router. OSPF 1, I think it's 1. And if I now do protocol shutdown, there they go. Okay, so now if we start logging here, say collect OSPF, okay, do you see the link just on the one side just disappeared, right? So instead of having a pair of links, the one session went down. So that's reacting as I'm making changes. So if we wait for the timers to fire, these links here are going to disappear entirely. So if I then were to bring this back up, so I do my no shutdown, we're going to see this come back up. And if I then tell the system, hey, go collect again, there it is. It's now back up. Okay, so this is reacting as I'm making changes. And if I were to change my addressing schema, again, it's going to pick that up. It's going to react and adjust to whatever changes I'm making. So that's the key thing. The protocol visualization, design time operations. I want to check out what I'm doing before I go ahead and launch. Or, as we've just been showing, I want to do things by hand. Then obviously I'm not going to be building those live the protocol visualization pieces. Live visualization, it's reacting, it's learning, it's adapting as I make changes, as I configure my network. So I can use something like live visualization as I'm going along, making and building my configurations according to whatever I see fit.
That is great, and it's amazing. You've really provided an alternative user interface for working with your labs here. I mean, Yeah,
that's right. I mean, it's a case of, some people prefer one environment or the other, and there are certain environments where, VM Maestro really comes into its own. A key thing to remember, of course, is VM Maestro, I can do all my design time operations offline. I can be, not having VIRL running anywhere and still able to use VM Maestro to do whatever it is I need to do. Okay, so that's a key capability. And there are other things like, the Git repo capability that's in there, and history and rollback. So that's functionality that's in VM Maestro. Here is alternative functionality, which again may be suitable in some situations and not suitable in others.
That's great. And Tom Bryan, I believe you said Tom Bryan, he's with us here today. He was one of the guys working on this very piece, right?
That's right. So Tom and Dan, some of our guys, and then Simon, who does all the live visualization pieces. But Simon should be possibly fast asleep. Oh, no, he might be awake now because it's morning in Australia. So
Gotcha. Yeah, well, Tom is here, and Tom was pointing out for us that, so we have the AutoNetKit visualization based on the configs generated by AutoNetKit. So again, for the hand configurations that we might be making, we use the live visualization of that. Very cool. Well, I want to encourage our students to ask questions. We've had a few that have come in. One of the questions that I took care of that came in was, wow, is this friendly to learn? The student literally said, this looks so cool, is it easy to learn? And my answer was, of course, yes, very simple to learn. We do have a course here at CBT Nuggets which walks you through VIRL every step of the way. And I'll obviously be remaking that course real soon because there have been so many great new features added since my original recording of that class. I wanted to start the questions here with my own. Joel, it seems like your different groups within Cisco are just doing a great job of consistently upgrading the images that we have access to inside of VIRL. I mean, it seems like we're consistently getting new, more efficient, more feature-rich images all the time, and that's more accelerated than your releases of the product.
So yeah, the virtual machine images come from different constituent groups within the company. So we pick them up as they're coming out. So they actually move on a different release cycle. So for example, with the last version that we put out back in August, about 2 weeks later, there was a new version of iOS XRV. So we went from 5.3.1 to 5.3.2. So we pick those images up, and through the VIRL software page, we then make those available for people so they can literally just push the button, download, and get the new version of code installed. Yeah,
that's awesome. Chris is asking about the Nexus within VIRL. How good is it? Chris, it's an awesome question. They have a ton of the layer 3 functionality in the Nexus image, and they're starting to finally add layer 2 functionality. Like I think the latest we got was Fabric Path. So the layer 2 functions are starting to show up. I think, yes, OTV is functional now, I believe. So it's, again, one of those great things where they keep pushing a new Nexus image, and we keep gaining functionality with that Nexus image. Virtual device contexts, I don't believe are functional yet. But,
no, that's right. That's right.
Yep. So, and the VIRL team does a great job on their community website, and I'll show you that URL in a moment, of letting us know, hey, look, here's a post on everything the Nexus can currently do, and they'll pin that post inside their community so we can look up what the current feature set is. Chris also asked a great question, Joel, that I'm actually curious about. Have you guys started to think about, or has there been discussion around UCS equipment in here, like maybe the C-Series servers or the chassis with the blade servers? Any more of the UCS equipment going to come our way, you think?
So there is a virtual machine which, I'm going to get the terminology wrong. It's effectively an API SNMP simulator, which you can use for sort of writing applications and testing against. It's not a C-Series emulator as such. I mean, in terms of it doesn't pretend to be a compute blade or anything of that nature. It's just, it's not something where you can actually run programs on. It's just a system against which you can run things like inventory management tools, things of that nature. Now, technically, I don't believe that there's any reason, I'm going to be vague here. I don't think there's any real reason why we couldn't get that virtual machine image integrated, but you have to remember that machine is not designed for integration into a network environment. So I don't believe that the system really understands when you actually go and configure the thing. You know, for example, if you had two network interfaces, I don't believe, maybe it may be wrong because I don't have the practical experience here, I don't believe that it actually understands what it is that it's being connected to, since it's a very, very constrained and restricted virtual device emulator. As I said, it's there for a very, very particular purpose, and it's primarily for API coding and development work.
Gotcha. Here's a question that I've actually seen flooding in lately to my website, to my blog site. So a lot of the students are using this platform, Joel, to practice CCNA security, for example. And they're wanting the graphical user interface options for managing the gear. For instance, on the ASA, that would be the ASDM interface, the Adaptive Security Device Manager. It's probably possible to connect our VIRL. Okay, go ahead. I'll stop trying to answer it, and I'll let the expert.
No, not at all. Okay, so no, it's absolutely possible. So it's included. The key piece is you need to have direct IP access to the management port of the ASAV. Okay, so there are a couple of ways you can do this. One, and I'm just going to show people how you can do this. Just want to highlight, Anthony, you might like this, so that's dialing in the latency. So I just increase the latency on that link just by clicking and setting that up.
That is so cool. That is so awesome. And again, I'm thinking QoS as you're manipulating those features. That's great.
Yep. So when we set up our environment, so at design time, I have a couple of different options in terms of how I do my, my management. So if we take a look here at the topology piece, I can set it up for private project network. Okay, so that's an off-net access, private simulation network. So key piece to remember, I can have a simulation network which is unique to my simulation. So for example, if you and I were working on the same system, you could have your own private out-of-band management network, and I would have my own private band out-of management network. If I choose private project network and we were both logged in at the same time in the project guest, then we would be able to work together and we'd be able to see each other's networks. Okay? But if I do this, shared flat network, what I'm doing is I'm exposing that out-of-band management network that we have connecting each one of these devices to the outside world. So if I have, for example, this is running on my workstation or player, and I have access into that network, which normally you would, I could then take my IP address, get the IP address of this particular device, pop that into my web browser, point at that device, and I'm going to be communicating directly with it. So yes, the ASDM interface is absolutely available, and you can, as long as you set it up for this access mechanism, okay, so the shared flat network, yes, absolutely, you'll be able to point at it and get the ASDM access up and running for you.
That is great, and that addresses any graphical user interface that students want to experiment with against Cisco gear. So you start thinking all the Cisco Prime tools, you start thinking about third-party tools that have been written to manage Cisco equipment, and we can indeed integrate them. That is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the same thing, with third-party virtual machines. You may have seen on the community forum, there's quite a set of third-party virtual machines, and some of those, that's the primary mechanism for configuring them. So yeah, you need to be able to get your web browser to talk to the services running in that particular IP address. That's exactly how you do it.
Yep, that's great. And we have a link for everyone in the chat console to a demonstration of ASA, the virtual ASA, and the ASDM. It was in the March 2015 webinar, so that is cool. Chris McAnally, who was asking about UCS, just had a light bulb go off because he now realizes that he could connect UCS equipment into the simulation. That is great, yes. Remember, absolutely. When we're using VIRL, the VIRL team walk us through the instructions when you install to make sure that you can connect this to live gear, live production equipment. And that does open an incredible number of possibilities. Well, Joel, thank you so much. We went 6 minutes over thanks to these incredible questions. If you could stop your share, I'm going to bring up a slide with my contact information. And why I'm going to do that, everyone, is because I want you to reach out to me and let us know what you would love to see in our next webinar. So we'd love to do another one, and we'll never run out of topics, of course, because as I said, the VIRL team has been so good to us, just adding new features and new functionality all the time. But if there's anything that you saw today that you want us to focus on, or any ideas for us at all, you can reach me a number of ways here. The best, really, I listed first. It's my blog at ajsnetworking.com. You'll see I have a section of the blog dedicated to VIRL. So just go to any of those posts and add a comment. I'm very responsive there. Of course, Twitter, fan page on Facebook, Google+. And here is the address, as you can see, for the community. The easiest way to get here, by the way, is just head to the VIRL website, and there's a nice link at the top that says community. They provide excellent support for VIRL through that community, so be sure to check it out. Every question I've had just about has been answered already for me just by doing a search in the archives on that community. So that's a really, really powerful resource. Let's see. Joel, I did do what I promised you I would do, by the way. I think I did it over the weekend, as a matter of fact. I did a quick video up at my blog site, ajsnetworking.com, where I showed the down and dirty, quick and easy install. I just pretended that I needed to study right away for a particular topic. I think I took a couple of switches and a couple of routers and had to get them up quickly. So I demonstrate an install and the initial launch of the product, and I think students are really going to be impressed to see just how simple it is to get up running quickly. I used the free VMware Workstation Player, so I didn't have to spend any money when it came to the platform to run VIRL, and then, of course, jumped in and built the simulation. So check out that video on my blog if you have never installed VIRL and you want to see how painless it is to do that. Thanks to my VIRL subscription, I've now got it running everywhere. Not simultaneously, of course, but when I need VIRL on my MacBook, which is a very modest MacBook, please note I did not say MacBook Pro. I fire it up there with my 8 gigs of RAM, and I, of course, know that I'm only going to do 4 or 5 nodes on that device. When I need a more robust 15-node simulation, I turn to my iMac with its 32 gigs of RAM and its quad-core processor and all that fun stuff. So check out those great resources. Communicate with me. I would love to hear from you. We will plan more of these VIRL webinars, as I said. Thank you to all of our live attendees. A big, huge thank you to all of the VIRL team that was so giving of their time to help us out today, answer all these great questions. more exciting features on the way from VIRL, and here at CBT Nuggets, we'll be helping to keep you abreast of those. Have a great rest of the day, everyone, and thanks again for your attendance. A reminder that a recording of this will be placed at blog.cbtnuggets.com. As always, I sure hope this was informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.